There we go. And we still have a minute, but I will start promptly here in just a second. Let me admit all again. Okay, folks. Well, we are at the top of the hour. I will keep an eye on who I need to keep admitting to the room here, but let's go ahead and get started. You have joined PMINEO, and this event is building work streams for an effective project plan using Proggio. Basically, this is going to kind of be a Proggio product demo. Joining us from Proggio is Marcus Weiss. He's a global solution specialist with Proggio. And under full disclosure here, folks, I'm not an unbiased moderator here. Marcus and I have known each other quite well here over the last few months. My company has been in the process of implementing Proggio, and Marcus has been my implementation teammate making things happen here. But he graciously agreed to do a product demo for the chapter. So, Marcus, thank you for joining and doing this for us. Let me go ahead and get some of the housekeeping stuff out of the way here. Wanted to quickly go through and thank our chapter sponsors, Apex Systems, and then our event sponsor, Strategic Systems, and then Baldwin Wallace. Moving on here, then we'll also note our preferred partners with Velocity, I always mess that up, and Peak Business Management. And then our featured providers, Baldwin Wallace again, Project Bytes, and obviously projectmanagement.com. So moving forward here, Marcus, you and I had talked the other night. I'm not sure, do we want to hold questions and have them put in the chat or have them speak up? I just wanted to clarify before we start our presentation.
Yeah, given that we have quite a few people, we'll do it in chat, and then I'll keep an eye in there. But yeah, everyone feel free to be interactive. I'll stop and ask questions throughout. So just throw your answers or questions in the chat, and I'll keep an eye out. Thanks, Andy.
Okay. Fair enough. Based on that, then, moving on, I've already kind of done a partial introduction of Marcus. Here is Marcus, his happy. I tease him about his semi-smiling picture here, but on this link, then you also have a link to his LinkedIn account if you wanted to reach out to Marcus, and there'll be some other things that he may present to the chapter here as we move forward. So that being said, Marcus, do you want to go ahead and take over and run your deck?
Perfect.
You need me to
Yes,
stop
thank you,
sharing
Andy.
first?
Oh, I got it.
Good deal.
Zoom Pro, remember?
That's right.
So with this, I do have a short slide deck to run through. I don't want to bore you guys. I may end up needing to turn my camera off. There's a storm raging outside, so my internet has been a little skippy. But we'll just run through this. It's a little overview of what Proggio is, what we aim to accomplish, and we'll talk about work streams, which is the key emphasis of, this slide and this demo. So in essence, like I said, we'll keep it short, run through about Proggio, some trends we've seen, value streams we focus on in our PPM solution, those work streams and AI, and then I'll showcase the free version, which you can also try yourselves. Little about us. We've been in the market for 8 years, global coverage, spanning many industries, and it's all built off of patented technology, which are those work streams that I'll mention throughout this presentation. So in essence, this is what we aim to accomplish, supporting transparency and collaboration across many teams and departments, going from whiteboard, from this idea and concept, all the way through actual fungible content that you can collaborate and share on. The journey has been very simple. Our CEO, Yaniv, had an idea of a better way to project manage or a better way of project management. He himself was a project manager for many years at companies like Verifone and Intel. So he came up with this idea, got the patents for it, and now we have Proggio. So let's start by looking at a few trends that we've seen. There's a continued shift for profitability, cost savings, and efficiency. As we all know, the market has been crazy, so we're more focused in on cost savings at the highest, I would say. And of course, efficiency promotes that. Now, within that, you'll notice some other areas. Companies are striving for these trends to be present. Transparency across all of your data so you can make the right decisions. Business priorities. Are we executing on the right projects at the right time? And of course, innovation. Are we staying ahead of the market? Are we adapting? Are we having to catch up? And lastly, mitigating all of these risks. You'll notice that we also have risk mitigation that I'll talk about, but that's always a key aspect that we've seen. Now, the value streams that we focus on within our portfolio project management solution, things like process management. These are across your portfolios, programs, and projects. What are the standardized things that happen? Are these prioritization? Are they approvals to make sure projects are where they should be? Are we capturing plan versus actual? Any of these high-level data points would be captured in process management. Further, enterprise resource control. Are your resources under, over allocated? Are the right skill types allocated to certain projects? Are we hitting specific budget targets, plan versus actual? And of course, what if scenario planning? And lastly, seamless execution. This is actually the progress of your projects, making sure things are being accurately completed on time, having the capability to share this with stakeholders, and of course, risk management and the reporting capabilities around all of this. These three areas are what we encompass, and they're all built off of work streams. We also incorporate AI here in the project management, which I'll speak a little bit more on. But first, what are work streams? They're like the table of contents for your projects. They provide a structured way to organize and execute various project plans, such as the departments, like I said. These could be teams. You could think of them also like swim lanes. Further, you can use them in a much more complex fashion. When they're used as the foundational structure for your projects, you break away from Gantt charts, which are a much more task-focused plan, and you start to have bigger systems. You can think of a work stream as a series of tasks that need to be executed on in order to complete your projects. So our focus on work streams enhanced by Gen AI is what makes us one of the most forward-thinking project management platforms. And really, it's all about visual clarity. If you look at this project plan that I have up, you can clearly see the departments on the left-hand side listed out in the work stream. And within every work stream, all of the tasks or subtasks that those departments need to complete. Now, I will pause here and ask a question to the group. Feel free to post your answer in the chat. But has anyone used work streams before? Are you familiar with that concept before I continue? And again, these might be referred to as swim lanes in the past that you've seen. Okay, perfect. Seen some answers fall in. I see someone said they used them for Kanban boards. That's a great comparison. You might have those lanes on something like Jira. Okay, perfect. So I'm seeing a mixed bag, but a lot of people have heard of swim lanes before. So keep that in mind because we will talk again about these work streams and that swim lane-esque type of feel inside the solution. So I like to get your minds thinking about that ahead of time. Continuing on, I just have a few more slides. We'll talk about AI. These suggestions from AI are always driven from your data. It won't look out to the world and give you unrelevant information. It always looks to your domain. So it'll get smarter as you add more data and then, of course, use it more. And this is all done via natural language. So if anyone has used ChatGPT or something of that nature in the past, it functions the same way. You can ask it queries and questions like, what are the key metrics for my portfolio? What's overdue? What are my high risk? Things of that nature. And it'll, of course, look to your portfolio, analyze, and give you the correct answer. To wrap this all together, you can feel free to scan this if you would like to connect with me on LinkedIn, have any questions about Proggio or our approach to this workstream methodology, why we don't really use Gantt charts. Feel free to scan this, send me a message. And then this presentation has a link here for a free version that you can also use to sign up, but I'll go ahead and post that link into the chat now. So if anyone would like to sign up for this free version and follow along with me as I go through this little demo, feel free. And I just posted that in to the chat right now. So I'll give everyone just a brief moment to go ahead and click that link if you would like. You can always sign up afterwards if you're interested and go through Proggio on your own time. But since I'll be going through a live demo, you can always follow along with me. And again, I'll just give a brief moment here. Right. Perfect. So if you followed that link, you would have been taken to this page here where you could enter your email address and sign up. And after that, you'll be presented with this page to create your first timeline. This will be the first project that you have in Proggio. You'll see get started with AI, and this is directly using the Gen AI that I just referenced. Excuse me. So here you can type whatever your project plan is. As a suggestion, it references building a spaceship, but I'll put something a little more familiar to some of us, like software development. Now it's going to scan the general world to come up with some workstream suggestions. And remember, these are those table of contents or swim lanes that we were talking about earlier. So I'll choose a few here like project planning, design, and user training. We could, of course, choose more, but I'll stick with those three. Now it will suggest some tasks. These will be the parent items or the work packages that you need to deliver on. So again, I'll select a few throughout. And as I'm doing this, we also see my map is populating to the left. So not only building the map in real time, but assisting you, of course. We'll see a sample dependency, which I'll also show you how you can create those within the tool. And lastly, we'll place milestones, which again, you can think of as those key dates in your project plan. Lastly, hit finish. It will, of course, build the structure for you, and then you'll be presented with that plan inside your Proggio environment. You can also create a password for this account so that you can re-log in at any time and continue to build out projects and even invite two other people into your space if you'd like to collaborate with them. So now that we have this project plan here, you'll notice I can move my cursor and use this like a digital canvas. I can click and drag to move this map around, or move the cursor above the timeline and scroll up or down to zoom in or out. We also have some quick navigational features here. I can click this calendar icon with today's date to jump to the vertical today line on my map, or click the icon next to it to snap the project timeline into my immediate view. Here's where we could continue to manipulate our map. if we would like to reschedule items, click and drag on the task, and you of course see it impact dependent items in the future. Reschedule these items also by clicking and dragging from the edge of the task, and this will change the duration, or even draw out dependencies by locating the blue circle and then drawing to a different item. And again, we would see the impact when we reschedule into the future. So this is how you would start to build out your timeline for a project, placing all of the deliverables, and again, utilizing these work streams to call out those large areas of focus. If this is cross-departmental, the work stream could be each department involved. If it's a smaller team project, the work streams could be the individuals themselves that are involved. It's truly up to you how to utilize these, but based off of them, we get this visual timeline that's also interactive, and we can easily collaborate on it with our team members. So I'll pause again here to offer up another question. Is this starting to make sense from a real life use case as to how you could use your own work streams and build out a timeline on the map? I saw there was a mixed response of some individuals not being familiar with work streams beforehand, and some were. Perfect. Loving these responses. And it is great for high level or even more granular. I can always add subtasks into these or start to build out group work streams, which I'll reference in a moment. John, great question. Does this keep the older benchmark dates? Yes. There's a plan versus actual feature, and it's encapsulated within what we call Project Snapshot, which you can always find here behind the cross tools in the top right-hand corner. This allows you to capture not only contextually the benchmark dates, but also visually where they were on your timeline. Great question there. Roger, great question. Can you set up dependencies across swim lanes? Absolutely. So in this case, I'll do a chain for these first, second, and third task across each work stream. And now we see if I reschedule, the dependencies across all three are impacted. Not be too messy for a detailed plan? That's also a great question. With that, I'll jump to a different project that I have, which is referencing a new product launch. Here, this is about a 200-day long project with tasks and subtasks, where I even have what's called a sub-project. So I can click on this, you'll notice a brand new 3 layers of work streams. So I can start to go quite granular, having sub-layers, or of course, zoom out and still see that overarching 200-day long plan that has 100 or so tasks. So whether it's simple or detailed, you can capture both within Proggio. Again, it's just all about providing a visual first glance, but you can definitely encapsulate lower level detail. Another great question building off of that, can you have your resources associated to all of these items? Absolutely. Within the full version of Proggio, it's not available in the free version to be transparent, but you can start to allocate budget and cost, whether it's to a resource or to a material, equipment, or something of that nature. But just to be transparent, that feature is not available within the free version. See another great question here. What about tying this to resources? Absolutely. You'll notice as I open up this task, we have an assignee section. So you can start to, of course, denote who needs to be executing on it, but then they themselves are the ones tracking progress. They can log in, update status via the statuses that you define in Proggio. And then, of course, you can set allocation. So seeing if someone is under or over allocated, or you could choose to use time tracking or story points when you're referencing resources. So different ways to bubble those up and different ways to view that data as well. There's a resource heat map in the full version, so you can view resources across the entire portfolio. And then I'll look to a few more questions here before I expose some other areas. How do you show dependencies across multiple projects? Again, great question. Within the full version, you would have this resource heat map where you can quickly identify any resource area and how many tasks they have, or something a little more granular, like the percentage of load that they've been assigned. And then by diving into any area, like my customer success group, I see a split screen showcasing everything that group is working on within the given time frame, and of course, all the projects they're associated to. This data is also present whenever I go to assign a new assignee. You'll see next to their name that there's already a percentage of load. So this way, I immediately know for whatever time frame I'm in this case, October 14th to October 28th, this is what all of my users are currently assigned across all projects. So no disparate data, everything, of course, working together. So you have real-time insight into who is executing on what. And lastly, is there a way to establish operations work streams? Of course. Whenever you're looking back at those projects, you have the full reign over what your work streams are. If you look to the left-hand side, you'll see the Add Work Stream button. Additionally, if you look to the top right-hand corner, you'll see a blue plus button where you can also add tasks, milestones, or work streams. Then, of course, just choose to give it whatever desired title you need. You can, of course, assign this to a specific team, like the operations team or manager, and start to place their tasks wherever they need to be. That'll allow you to start to build out that timeline, incorporate this new department, and then they, of course, have their designated work stream to focus on, but still can be dependent and impact other swim lanes or work streams like we've seen before. And you can also have these quick undo buttons, Control Z on a Mac, or Control Z on a PC or Command Z on a Mac, and it'll undo any of those changes that we've been making. So quick navigational features as well. And sorry, Jenny, I skipped your question. How do you know which are sub-projects? You'll actually see a completely different icon. I'll jump back to this project, and if we look down here towards the middle of my screen, within this box, it has a bunch of different lines on it, marking that it's a sub-project. If you look to the task below it, it does not have that icon. This is a regular task. So different visual cues to let you know what these items are. A yellow triangle indicates that a risk has been flagged. If there's a red bubble on an item, like you'll notice when I remove this progress, a red bubble appears. It lets me know this is delayed and negatively impacting my project health. So different visual cues to let you really hone in on the important items. And of course, reduce the time it takes to sift and find data.
Marcus, can you go back to that screen for just a second?
Absolutely.
One of the other things I wanted to point out is in that quality checks task there in the middle of the screen, the maroon one, if you note how it has a 4 up in the top corner of it, that's also indicating then that task has 4 associated subtasks along with it, which also speaks back to the ability to provide additional detail or dive into additional detail. You can assign subtasks to all of these tasks also, as opposed to going the route of a complete sub project.
That's a great call out, Andy. And just like he said, you'll see in my assignee section, all of these are assigned to a different person. So you can create a succession of subtasks that need to be completed or different things of that nature. Great call out there. And since we're on the subject of tasks and subtasks, whenever you open them by double clicking or clicking the eye icon for properties, you'll notice all of these tabs across the top. This is how you can collaborate via messages, @mention, and all of your team members will pop up. they would, of course, receive notifications in real time. The dependency tab lists out contextually the blue lines that we've seen visually on the map. Risks, of course, is risk management, which is available in the full version. You can configure your own impact summary. You'll notice mine is dynamic. So as I change something like the probability or the severity, we see that impact change as well. And this would, of course, roll upwards to portfolio reports so I can see a risk register at the highest level. And whenever you flag a risk, you can then create a prevention or mitigation plan for that risk. So this can be assigned to somebody else, or of course, create an escalation path for risk management. And lastly, you can always upload files, whether it's at the task itself or at a higher level, like the project. This could be a file you upload directly or associating your document repository like Google Drive or SharePoint, something like that. Keep in mind, anything you do at this layer, at the task or project, will always flow upwards, leading to your portfolio data. Now I see another question. How is this tool different than Microsoft Planner? It has more details, but is it similar to Planner? I would say the biggest difference is being visual first with our maps. We're not, showcasing Gantt charts like I mentioned, and the ability to lay out in one succinct view. Like I said, this is a 200-day long project that I can view on one pane of existence. It involves more than 6 cross-functional teams. They all have their own independent lanes they can work from. And beyond this visual map-driven view we've been talking about and the AI that's built to support it, they also have their own dedicated area to execute. Instead of them having to come to a project and look at this map or start to dissect the list view and provide status updates from here, they can go to their own dedicated area, which is called a task report, and only see the items they've been assigned. Execute from a dynamic map or a Kanban board. And yes, I'll jump back to that list view. This is to answer your second question. Do we have that list format? Absolutely. You can add or remove any column of data you care about, which I'll expose briefly. So whether these are custom fields that you create, like any sort of metadata that you need to capture for projects, the sponsor, budget, priority, anything like that, you can add or remove and start to create these custom reports. So you'll notice here, I've built out a custom risk report focusing in on some key metrics that I care about. I later have this bubbled up to a dashboard. So taking the different data from all of these areas and then funneling it upwards to one single source of truth, so to speak. But again, all of this working together, none of this being disparate data. So if you update something in one area, it will of course update in all of the other areas. Now jumping back to the portfolio, I do want to talk about some of the aspects here that you can really focus in on. This portfolio map view, which you can always get to by the briefcase on the far left-hand side, or even click the Proggio icon to expand the sidebar so you can see the different areas available. But from this portfolio map view, think of this as a 30,000 foot view zoomed out where you can see all of your programs or projects that are happening. The projects themselves are listed out on the left-hand side. They of course have contextual data, so the name, who owns it, what's the health, which is actually showing you the completion up to today's date. So are we on track? In simple terms, if you should have 10 days of work completed, but you're only at 5, it would be a 50% health. And you also can expand this data kern to house any of that relevant metadata we were just referencing. So the same way in Excel, you add or remove columns, you could do so here and bubble up this data and also have the ability to change it as long as you have the appropriate permissions. A project manager could come here, update something like this goal, and it will of course update everywhere else in the solution in real time. When I collapse this back down, you'll see to the right, in line with every project, are its set of milestones displayed as chevrons. So we can see the clear timeline for all of our projects, zoom out if we need for projects spanning years, or of course, zoom back in. Now, the true power of this, which is unique to Proggio, is the ability to click on any of these milestones and see a split screen appear showcasing that project timeline. So this is the same project we spoke about earlier, about 200 day long, that I can now see without ever leaving my portfolio. Just simply click on my milestone, see it in real time. We know that this beta testing task is delayed because it has a red bubble. So I could move it into the future, but we see it's going to affect some other items. So instead, I would probably update it myself or start to collaborate with whoever's assigned and ask them to provide a status update. Then, of course, when we're working with these team members, they receive that notification, can provide the status update, and in real time, we now see my project health is no longer negatively impacted. So in real life practice, going from your highest data point, finding a project that needs attention, looking into those lower level details, but having the ability to immediately jump right back out and go to a new project that you need to focus on. So keep in mind, that's a big differentiator as well. I know that was asked in the chat. You can't really do that in those other solutions. It's either disparate boards or you building out these separate views. We try to encompass that in one area to save time and, of course, promote ease of use. You can see I'm truly just clicking on these items, analyzing the map, and I can choose to update progress like so, very simply. I'll pause here. I know that it's been a lot of information to digest, but did we leave any lingering questions on those work streams, these other questions that are come up from the group? We're kind of breezing through this as I look at the time. So I really want to make sure that we can get all of the questions answered on the call versus you having to reach out via email. Any comments, questions, concerns that I could get from the group. Don't want to put anybody on the spot. I know it's a hard question. So I'll continue on with some few more portfolio features and functions. Beyond the map view, we of course have cards, very high level data, things like where you can house your templates. Go ahead,
Marcus,
Andy.
you just got a question. Can you show dashboards and some clarification on functionality in the free version?
Absolutely. So first, I'll clarify the free version, and then we'll jump to dashboards because dashboards are not included in the free version. So that's a great call out. Within the free version, you have available to you the AI assisted project creation that we saw at the very beginning of the demo. You have this portfolio of projects that I'm showcasing now. And you, of course, have the ability to create all of your projects and the timelines therein. So building out these maps, all of the deliverables, you can include up to 2 additional people, including yourself, in the space. So 3 people can collaborate, work on these projects, create timelines, define dependencies, milestones, and even utilize the AI to assist with the creation or identifying work streams, things of that nature. And you'll have the ability to view the task report, which we've seen. So the honed in area so you can focus on specific deliverables or items across your entire portfolio. Those features are all available within the free version. Additionally, you can see your workflow stage so you can track where projects are, as an example, from initiation to closeout. You can see at a very high level what phase are these in, and of course, move them through these stages, as I'll do with planning to execution. You also have the list views that we've seen, so you can use this like an ad hoc report, the same way you would in Excel, add or remove any column of data that you care about, filter and sort, and then save these as custom reports as well. You'll notice here I have a report showcasing my top priority projects. So you would be able to do all of these features and functions. And lastly, also have access to the Learning Center, which you can see in the bottom right-hand corner. This has getting started guides to teach you about Proggio, as well as more advanced topics, and a way to contact support if you ever need help with the solution. All of that is encapsulated within the free version. So again, the ability to create project timelines, build out a portfolio, manage where those projects are in their life cycle, and then even include two other people to collaborate on those projects. And lastly, the AI is included in the free version as well. Now, beyond the free version are those areas of resource management, risk management, prioritization, if you need an intake process, and of course, dashboarding. We have what's available to you as a widget folder where you can mix and match from these categories and then start to incorporate all of the data we've seen throughout this demo, wherever it's high level portfolio, the middle of project, or the bottom data layer of actual tasks. You can incorporate and create whatever data set you need to care about. So in turn, I have one here showcasing a combination of 6 portfolios and all of the projects within. So I can see an overarching view of everything within my Proggio space. Different data points like notes, seeing how many projects belong to each portfolio, those risks that we've talked about, whether it's a high level portfolio risk or something impacting a specific project. You could even start to incorporate portfolio analysis data, like a plan versus actual, and then create a trend tracker. Here I'm showcasing my overdue tasks and that they gradually decreased as they should. Then again, bring in any of those list views that we've referenced many times, create a specific report, load it into the dashboard, and it's still dynamic as well. So if I need to impact this data point, I can do so from here. I don't need to navigate backwards to that list view in another area of Proggio. Also choosing to include different visuals. I have my portfolio roadmap, so I can see all of my project timelines at a high level. Still include the data curtain we've seen from before as well. So all of that relevant information can be here at the top of my dashboard and also being dynamic. So if we needed to edit any of these options, we can always do so as well. Lastly, you incorporate those different data points like resources and budget. So I have my headcount per quarter by portfolio as an example, but this could be any metric that you're concerned about. Maybe it's headcount per project type or headcount required from certain departments for your projects, or even bringing in something like budget. So now I have my planned budget per quarter. These are all fully customizable, which I'll expose now via the settings menu. So it's never a low code or complex effort. You simply jump in, use these data point drop downs to select what you care about. And of course, the widget will present that data. So we really promote the simplicity. Everything you've done at those other areas, whether it be task management, project, or portfolio, will always flow upwards and populate these dashboards. You then have the ability to share them as well, whether you're sharing with a group like the executive team or specific individuals. You can define how long the link is valid for so they can log into Proggio and view it, or alternatively, simply share a screenshot via email, and this will include a read-only URL to the dashboard. That way, they don't have to log into Proggio, but they still have the dynamic capability. They can scroll through lists, but of course, they will not be able to edit any data. So different ways to share the data and of course talk about it, but the beauty being, as I've mentioned, this is all real time. We're not having to update in multiple locations or export this out to a PowerPoint or something like that. On that note, you do have the capability where you can create any list view, like we've referenced the Excel style views, and export to a PowerPoint if you needed. The last thing I'll showcase on dashboards are project specific dashboards. This allows you to place your widgets in a templatized fashion and hone in on a singular project's data. So we'll scroll through here. We can see task report, the map we've been viewing before. I still have the capability to dive into the granular level, impact my assignees, change statuses. Any of the features and functions we've already seen for project management, I can do here from my dashboard. Then utilizing the dropdown, rotate to any other project that I'm working on. So keeping me in one location, but having the outreach into everything that I'm owning. And lastly, every single dashboard has that sharing capability I've referenced. So whether you need to include or not include people, build those public or private dashboards, it's going to be readily available for you live in the solution. So you can always duplicate these, create new ones, or of course, share them out to those responsible stakeholders. Well, again, I'll pause for questions. I'll also look to you, Andy. I know we have some time here. If you
We
think
do.
I've maybe skipped over an area of focus that would be beneficial for the group, I would again ask any of those work stream questions. We did spend a good portion on time on that, and it seemed like everyone understands and likes the idea of work streams. But again, since I'm here, really want to make sure I can be best of use, answer these questions now live. I will be available via email and LinkedIn, of course, but just want to make the most of our time together.
Marcus, the only thing I would interject as far as additional features and things that we haven't touched upon is one of the main reasons my company moved towards Proggio as our application is obviously the dashboards, but then my company is primarily a software development or software as a service company, and our development teams they live in Jira, and we wanted a product that would interface with Jira. Well, this has a built-in interface that we can set up with Jira that pulls things in from our Jira uh, instance in real time. So we set up, it's called a Jira listener, where I can literally set up a task that listens to, it can either be a specific story. If I pull it in, if those of you familiar with Jira, I can link in an epic, and then as additional stories are added to that epic, they automatically get pulled into Progio also. So I just thought I'd point that out for those who need to take this to a different level.
Yeah, that is a great call out. Thank you, Andy. So within the free version, you can have that integration to Jira. It's bidirectional. So just like Andy called out, you can listen for things. On my map, I've chose to listen to sprints and epics, but these could of course be specific releases, initiatives, stories, bugs, whatever it may be. But you'll notice when I click on my sprint, the split screen appears showcasing all of those Jira items. This way, my Jira users can stay there and execute and provide their status updates, but we receive the relevant information here in Progio. And that's always in real time as well, so no disparate information there. This can also include different things like the description, priority, or story points if you're tracking those as well. With that, you could also import data via Excel. We have an import function with a template. So here you can copy the format and start to import your own projects. This is also very typical when we go through an onboarding or an implementation. Andy is very familiar with that. We exported and imported many projects for his space. So that's always available to you as well. And I see a question from James here. Does this integrate with Google Workspace? So by nature, it would integrate with, your email and your Google Drive, and it can also go with any multi-factor authentication that's needed, like SSO and those things. But beyond that, We don't have a native integration with Google Workspace. However, we have an accessible API. So you always have the capability to build something out yourself or write a script to communicate between the two solutions. So there's always a way, whether it's manually via the import or via the API, to connect those solutions. Great call out there, Andy. I appreciate that. And of course, the last thing I'll reference on that Jira integration, here you can see on my map, I have many work streams that are not involving Jira. So it allows me to pull all of the data from different places and have it on one pane of existence and even draw out those dependencies. So I know if my defined requirements pushes out into the future, it's also going to start impacting some of my sprints, so on and so forth. So giving you that real-time insight from data across different tools or places. And of course, as I've mentioned, those different departments, because you can utilize those work streams as such. Perfect. Any other questions that have bubbled up as we've talked through these different feature points? Linda, great question. More robust resource tracking. That'll be a perfect segue to end on. I'll pop a project up again here and focus on those tasks like we mentioned before. You can always split this workload across multiple assignees, different groups, or use it more so as an estimation. For me, I'm saying this task that spans 14 days will take 50% or whomever I assign to it, 50% of their workload for this given time frame. So you could split this across many individuals, a singular one, hone this down to whatever percentage you think is appropriate, or start to use time tracking or story points. That will funnel into the heat map that I showcased earlier, where you can see across all projects, resources, and portfolios who is assigned to what, whether you're looking at it in the fashion that I have as a weekly workload or something more high level like monthly or quarterly. This is where you can be more granular. What time are people associating to these items? Who is assigned to them, of course? Can they take on more or less? And you also have the capability to set custom thresholds on these things. Maybe someone can work more than what our estimated 100% is, different things of that nature. So that will all play into together or play into each other, working off of resource management. And also, Linda, you can do what if scenario planning. So if you have projects that are set for the future, are we able to bring those on earlier? You can create a sandbox what if scenario, create that plan, and then of course choose what to do with it. So different things being available to you for resource and portfolio management there. Another great question, is there a time limit on the free version? There is not. There's no time limit there. Just keep in mind it's the limited feature set that I reference. But absolutely, I would recommend you use the link that I supplied in chat. Sign up for the free version, poke around, build out a sample project, and of course, utilize that learning center I exposed earlier in the bottom right-hand corner. That'll also be great to help you walk through those initial steps. One more question I see here. Mobile app, what can be done in it? What limitations? So we don't have a native mobile app, but it is browser friendly. So you could load up Proggio on your phone or tablet and log in, and then start to execute on task management if you're logging in from a cell phone, meaning you can see the task you're assigned to and track progress on them, upload files, different things of that nature. And if you log in from a tablet or a larger device, you'd be able to do the same functions that I've walked through here in the demo. Just dependent more so on the size of the screen as to the capabilities that you'll have there. Perfect. One last thing I'll expose before you go, Andy. In the top right-hand corner, you'll see these three stars grouped together. This is also how you access the AI within the app. I forgot to call this out. So you'll have that project creation wizard when you first log in, which you can always find in this help button, which is the question mark. That'll let you use the project creation wizard, or the 3 stars are your AI. Just an example, I'll ask it, what can I ask about my portfolio? And it'll, of course, give me some general suggestions like we saw earlier in the slide deck. It could say, what are your high risk, so on and so forth. So keep in mind, that'll always be there for you, and you can test that out in the free version as well. It'll automatically come loaded with some dummy projects for you, and then you can start adding your own, and the AI will, of course, get smarter once it sees your data. That's the last thing I wanted to expose there. Go ahead, Andy.
No, I was just going to ask for any last questions because Marcus is kind of double booked today. He gets to do another presentation to another PMI chapter here at the top of the hour. So I just wanted to make sure we got any last questions in before we took over because Marcus is literally going to have to drop off here in a few minutes. So with that note, are there any additional questions before I kind of move back to our slideshow? Marcus, I don't know if you want to go back and pull up that link where they could. Uh, I'm sorry, you put the one link in the uh, uh,
I
in
just threw it
the
in the
chat.
chat again.
Yeah, but if
And
someone wanted
then,
to reach out to you directly, how would they go about doing that?
oh yeah, let me pop up my LinkedIn. My email, I believe, was listed on the
Yeah,
speaker
I can go back
presentation.
to the LinkedIn, but if you have something else that you'd like to put in there that I
Anyone can always scan this QR code with their phone if they want, and it'll take you straight to LinkedIn if you'd like to message me on there. You can always email me. It's my first dot last name at progio.com. That's a way as well. Or if you're more comfortable just reaching out in a general fashion, you can always email the word contact at progio.com as well. And that'll go to the team and someone will reach out to you. So many different ways. And like I said earlier, I highly suggest you check out the free version if any of this interested you at all. It'll have that limited feature set we discussed, but it allows you to create full timelines utilizing the work streams and project map, which are the main differentiators from Proggio to another solution. So you'll be able to see those, test out the AI as well, and then reach out if anything bubbles up.
one other thing that I'll go ahead and call out and note is the company I work for is primarily based out of the EU, and Proggio is a global company. They have people not only in the States, but I've got a support. There's a separate team with Marcus's counterparts that are supporting my organization in India and in the EU. So it's not like uh, they're just a local organization. So, with that being said, let me go ahead and take over, go back to the share here. And there's Marcus's half smiling face again, along with his LinkedIn profile. And then what I'll go ahead and move on to is what some of you guys have been waiting for, which is the PDU claim code for this session. I'll leave the I will leave this up for a few moments so people can write that down. As you saw in the chats, then also we'll be sending this out along with Marcus's the recording, along with the slide decks to everyone here over the weekend. But are there any other questions? Anything else we should be touching base on? If not, then I am going to move off and kind of wind things up here. I just wanted to note that for upcoming projects or events, we do have another one coming up that's very popular here. Literally in a couple of weeks, we have the AI expert from PMI joining us for another noontime session on the 27th. You could go out and sign up for that session. Um, we actually had to expand the number of seats for that session this week. It's already over 200 people. So, and then last but not least, for those of you not sure how to claim PDUs, here's a quick update on that. And we will go from there. Outside of that, I'll leave that up for another moment. I don't have anything else to present unless people have questions or things they want to raise.
Just wanted to say thanks so much for allowing me to join, Andy, and everyone for giving me the time. And of course, feel free to reach out. Any questions, concerns, or general comments about Proggio are always welcomed.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Marcus. Just a couple other things that I'll just mention briefly while people are looking at this, and I'll go back to the PDU claim code one more time. We do have upcoming events. Our upcoming events not only include the AI event, but we have a event going on in November for IPM Day. We have another session in November that's going to be Visio for PMs, and then we're going to have a event in January that will be an association with Cavs game, where not only can you gain PDUs, but we'll also be including tickets to see the Cavs on a game night. So that's going to be a interesting, fun, different kind of project. So, or session, I should say. And just for clarification, the Cavs game isn't on the site yet. It is to be determined, but it will be a date coming up in January. And we'll have that up on the site here very soon. Okay, that's all I have, folks. Unless there were questions, I'll try to field a few of them. If you had other additional questions about Proggio, I'll kind of open the floor. I believe Marcus may have dropped for his other event, but I can try to field a few questions. No questions? Okay, folks. Well, have a great afternoon. Thanks for attending, and we appreciate you spending your time with our chapter event. Thank you. Sure, Sue, just a second. There's the PDU. Okay, folks, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and stop the